Hello and welcome to the School's Global Footprint teaching resources. You're looking at an illustration of a group lesson planning session that we held with 5 Edinburgh schools in March 2011. And I'm going to take you through this diagram quickly so that in your own time you can have a look at it and hopefully it can inspire you to teach with the School's Global Footprint resource. Just as we look at the diagram now, you can see that it shows you a path of ideas, and in this instance we're looking at food. So we're looking at how the teachers talk to one another about how they could teach food in the classroom and what sort of things they could do to reduce the environmental impact of food, and look at things like interdisciplinary learning and how they could link to eco schools. So they came up with some great ideas and we recorded them graphically so that you can have a look at them in your own time. So I'll just go through the illustration briefly now. So as I said, it's Prospect Bank School. They wanted to look at food, and they're based in Edinburgh, and they wanted to use the School's Global Footprint teaching resource as inspiration to help them to start to teach food in their classroom. And importantly, they were looking at the environmental impacts of that food, so they wanted to measure and examine and reduce the impacts that food was having in their school. And the teachers thought a really good way to teach this in the classroom was to have a framework. So they needed to think about the different types of activities and lessons that they wanted to pull together to teach about food, because it's quite a big topic. So they thought that things like looking at the global versus local sources and linking to perhaps a link school. Prospect Bank has very good links with the school in Malawi, so they wanted to think about how the footprint differs for pupils in Malawi to pupils in Scotland. They thought they'd look at food journeys and those types of things. So they framed all their teaching or the ideas within these categories. I'll just tell you a little bit more about it as we follow the illustration along. They thought to record what they were doing, or to talk about the types of food that pupils eat in Scotland. They looked at developing a pictorial food diary, so pupils could either draw what they've eaten or select them from a list of choices, comparing that perhaps with the diary of what pupils might eat in Malawi. This school, because of their links with Malawi, know that the pupils in their Malawi school only have one meal a day usually at school, and that's usually porridge, so they can compare it quite quickly with the very different ways of eating. They thought about going to farm visits as well. And if we just keep moving on, aside from doing farm visits, they also wanted to really link with their local shops in Edinburgh around the school, and also with their kitchen. So they made lots of links with their kitchen and with their local shops. In fact, the pupils at Prospect Bank School have a lot of control over what they eat. Every week, a class selects and buys and purchases from a local shop their snack for the day. So the teacher at this school that worked on food footprint worked with the pupils to buy low impact food, or to discuss what that might mean. They also decided to have a lot of fun with food, and it's easy to do that with this topic. So they had a food fair, they linked it to healthy eating, they linked it to fair trade during Fair Trade Fortnight in Scotland, they linked it with global food and culture around eating different types of food. They did artwork, they did all sorts of great things at their food fair, and they invited the community to their food fair as well. As I said earlier, they recorded lots of things throughout through photos and documentaries, and that was very much pupil-led. They also wanted to look at some more very environmental issues of food, very obvious ones within the school, and that's food waste, and how they might recycle reuse leftovers for the next day, how they might just simply not waste food. So they talked about taking only the portion you need on your plate and those sorts of things. They brought in Changeworks from Edinburgh, a consultancy here, to help them to measure their food waste. So they got actual measurements of how much food they were wasting or not during lunchtime, and that's the sort of information that is great that you can put into the school's footprint calculator online as well. Just to say that they looked into other things, and perhaps we'll think about, with the City of Edinburgh, procuring better in future, and the Soil Association has the Food for Life project that could help them to do that. And finally, just a reminder that learning is supposed to be fun, and that food is a great way to make it fun for the pupils. They got to taste lots of new foods, they got to think about where food comes from, they got to think about how other pupils live, and they really enjoyed it, and hopefully they'll reduce their footprint as a result. So take a look at this diagram. I hope it helps you to get some ideas about how you might teach food in your classroom using the School's Global Footprint resource.